Welcome back. You're watching KTN Morning Express. Thank you very much for joining us. We are talking about the mass voter registration. Phase 2 is being launched today by the IEBC. And just continuing with our conversation, I'd left you mid-sentence. We were talking about the budget constraints that the IEBC has been experiencing and whether this Phase 2 will be better than what we saw in Phase 1 of the exercise.
Before I comment on that, I was going to comment on what Felix and Omar was talking about.
Yeah.
ILOG observed the first phase of voter registration. And one of the findings that we were able to establish is that political parties did not help mobilize voters to come out and register. And that was a problem, and we shared our report with the political parties and with the IEBC. And I think as we move into this phase 2, you will find a lot of political party activity around mass voter registration. And this explains why even CORD had to call off their mass action, because they realized that one of the key things to win an election is to have people register. Now, the second thing that ILOG was able to establish was that due to inadequate resources, IEBC was not able to fully do what they had planned to do. Now, two things that I think needs to come out clearly. One, IEBC needs to come out and tell us whether, in fact, the amount of money they have been given is enough for this drive, because then we can hold them accountable. Last time they said they didn't have enough money, and for sure, when we went out into the field, we saw. Because even some of the registration clerks were using their own money to move the kids from point A and to point Z. They were using their own money to even store the kids. And right now, I want to hear IEBC telling us that, yes, we have enough allocation for this phase. So I think we'll be able to see a much more wider drive, and which will turn into numbers. Yeah.
Ambrose, I think we should speak to Ambrose from our main studios at along Mombasa Road. Ambrose, budgetary constraints have been a narrative for the IEBC for a while now. Has this in any way affected the public confidence in this particular electoral institution? And how do you foresee this phase 2 of the mass voter registration panning out?
Thing to do with the feeling that the public has on the institution. I think they are aware that the money is allocated are usually not enough. Even now, I don't think what has been allocated for this exercise is enough. Those who have been enlisted with the work will have to go out as patriotic Kenyans to ensure that they do extra so that more people are registered. This also should be augmented by the political parties using their resources and their goodwill to urge people to come out of their houses to register. Some people will have to be visited in houses, some will be visited in hospitals, some will be visited in wherever they are hiding, so that they register and prepare. What I know is that because of the heightened political tension, it will create some interest on the various strongholds for people to come out. Those who want to retain power, there are people who want to come out to register. Then there are also those who want to get power. There are people who will come out to register. Added to all this, there are new entrants. And I hear certain areas, people are saying, you will not go to the market unless you have a voter's card. You will not be served here unless you have a voter's card. This may shake young people who are lethargic to come out. The major issue is the young people. They are very lethargic. They are neither yes nor no. They don't seem to understand. So there must be something to jolt them when they are told, look, when you go out to search for a job, we may also ask you for a voter's card. So that they come out and register and we prepare for election. But I had said we may register 5 million. Looking at it carefully and going by the previous numbers, we will be between 4 and 5. And that is if the political parties and all of us come out strongly, without politicizing it too much. With the rallies. The rallies are just here in Nairobi. I was in my village yesterday. Those people, you need new strategies, and I don't seem to see the new strategies of reaching people in their homes. Some people have to be smoked out of their homes. Some people are supposed to be smoked out where they are smoking other things to come out and register.
Okay, Ambrose, there's an array of issues Ambrose has raised. One, he says that political parties are having these major drives in towns, but down at the rural areas, they need a different strategy to get to the voters who are unregistered in that end. He's also mentioned an aspect of the youth. He's saying that due to the rise in political tensions in the country, the youth will now have psych, so to speak, from what young people would say, have psych to go and register as voters. Felix, let's start with the strategies that Ambrose is talking about. What could they be? Are rallies enough?
Rallies are not enough, although rallies are forums where you can actually, interest and excite and energize the base. But there's a better strategy of actually mobilizing voters. One, it has to be understood that election is a highly devolved and decentralized affair that normally happens at the polling station.
Yeah.
The way that Ghanaians' political parties have done it, and especially the New Patriotic Party that won the elections the other day, when they realized that they were not reaching to the grassroots, when they realized that there was a perception that the NPP was an urban party, they came up with polling stations committees, recognizing that elections are a highly devolved affair that happens at the polling station. So they ensured that they had a 6 to 10 member committee whose primary responsibility was actually to conduct voter registration drives and coordination at the polling station level.
Okay.
The advantage with that was that in a polling if you have a committee at the polling station, people who live or vote in a particular polling station, you almost know them by name.
Yeah.
You can always know that so-and-so has registered and so has not registered. Secondly, it enabled them to monitor voter registration exercise, such that when the Electoral Commission of Ghana said that 500 people had registered in this particular polling station, the New Patriotic could compare with their numbers and confirm. But also on election day, it enabled this committee to interest voters those who had registered, to actually go out and vote. But also it deterred rigging, because if somebody was introduced at a particular polling station who was not a voter there, they would know. Now, this is the strategy that political parties in Ghana have embarked on, realizing that a political party cannot go to the grassroots.
Yeah.
They need to establish a committee at that level that can help coordinate, energize, and conduct voter registration drives at that local level.
So that we don't see the political leaders, we don't see Raila Odinga or Hassan Omar or Musalia Mudavadi going to each and every other village to try and ask for votes.
I mean, if Hassan Omar comes to Kindube, I'll go to, people will be interested to go and see Hassan Omar, who they only see on TV. But it might not be effective follow-up. So that's why you need a committee at that level to be able to coordinate and mobilize voter registration.
Will political parties be picking this kind of strategy this time around?
First of all, the reason also, just to add to what you say, the reason in mass is last voter mass registration drive to not up the numbers. It's Kenyans, like every other human being, has this last minute thing. You are given an assignment, you are told it's due for submission end of March. You don't start working on it until 2 weeks to the end of March. So it's a very also human thing. But I think this time we have strategies. I'm not sure whether I'm at liberty to say some of them, including
you can.
because strategies are strategies. So
you don't want the competitor to pick you up.
It's not that we don't want the competitor to pick up. Our competitor is extremely disruptive in his own little ways in terms of trying to make sure that you do not attain the goal. But we have also deployed this personal touch kind of strategies in the broader framework of the strategies. Not only have we this time decided to work with party structures, we have multiple party structures. You go to Mombasa, you have the Ford Kenya structure, you have the ODM structure, you have the Wiper structure, and the ANC. So we're trying to say that every structure will be capacitated in a certain way to reach out in terms of mobilizing that vote. We even have the door-to-door element where we're asking aspirants. That's why we call aspirants at almost all levels. Yeah. But particularly some of us are going to convene aspirants at the MCA level, because if we told them aspirants at the MCA level to come here, we probably need to fill the whole of Nairobi. So we are also going to convene aspirants at the MCA level. And those are the best people to be able to take tally of the kind of persons that they need to remove, to register. We are going to ask them to go door to door. You know, because being a stronghold of the Code Coalition or the NASA formation, you go into any place, you find you have at least 20 aspirants at the MCA level. That is more than a saturation point. So you can tell each and every of those aspirants to verify and ensure that everybody is a registered voter, and to ensure they mobilize those people. So I think the aspirant strategy for on our side will work miracles in its own regard. And it will all demonstrate itself as IEBC continues to update us, I think, every week with the kind of voter, the targets that they have realized.
Yeah.
So I think it's fairly complex, and it is quite coordinated. And I believe this time around we will have something a lot more to write home about.
Marcus, I think it would be right to say this is a very high-stake election that we'll be having this year, considering the interests, and an incumbent will be seeking a second term as well. We've had issues of campaigns, ethnic campaigns, for people to register, and I'm sure you're not new to this. You've had this about people being asked to vote so that they can protect what they think is rightfully theirs. And as an observer, what are your sentiments towards this?
You see, one of the principles of elective democracy is that the numbers count. And the work of an observer, therefore, is to remove himself or herself from the processes and look into them with a non-partisan eye. And for one to domesticate leadership in this country, in this era, is really misplaced. And one of the hallmarks, again, of representative democracy is inclusivity. And every Kenyan has the right, as provided by the law, to stand and be elected. And so it's never a reserve of any person or any community. And one of the things we'll be doing is to observe some, even when they campaign, and ILOG will be, and actually beginning today, we have deployed 290 observers in every constituency to observe the process, including the drives. When you drive, when you ask people to go and register, what do you tell them? It's also important. What do you tell them? What are the motivation structures that you put in place to enable them to go and vote? If you tell them that this is ours, it shouldn't cross this river, or this is our time to eat, all those motivations will be monitored by us, and because we need to speak to the process. Is it fair? Is it transparent? Is it inclusive? And any process that excludes a significant number of Kenyan population is, by that very fact, incredible and unfair.
Let's have Ambrose comment on ethnic campaign, so to speak, to have voters register. Ambrose, what do you think?
I think it works in the sense that, like, the Luos will obviously be voting for Raila Odinga, except a few like me here.
If he becomes the flag bearer.
You can see he's going to be the flag bearer. Without him being flag bearer, there will be no NASA, he has already set the stage. The rest are escorting him as flower girls, you know. The Kikuyus obviously will also be voting for Uhuru Kenyatta, save for a few. And the engineering is this: if you go to Nyanza, like Luoland, they are saying, please register and have enough votes so that we remove these Kikuyus. On the other hand, in the Kikuyu, they'll be like also galvanized so that to ensure Raila does not take power because he's dangerous. That is the form of galvanization going on. And then the others, when Kalonzo goes to his Ukambani, he galvanizes them as Wakamba. He's not saying voters. When Mudavadi goes to Western, he goes and says, as Umundu, let's remove this guy. So the ethnic galvanization is going on. And that is why they are losing the modern young man and young lady who does not seem to understand this. He doesn't know Kiluo, he doesn't know Keloya, he doesn't know Kekamba. All he knows is looking for a job, he's looking to go abroad. So that's why majority of young people who left school last year and this year and the other year seem not to be in the mix. So they need actually to re-engineer in that area so that we do not ethnicize things so far. But that is the hallmark of the drive that are being done. When you see CORD, they do it on the basis of tribe. When you see Jubilee, it is on the basis of tribe, because that works easy, and that is the voting pattern. So that at the end, we want to see how many Kikuyus have registered, how many Luos, then we can clearly see victory, who is going to win. Yes, so that is the hallmark, but it is not good for our country.
Well, Ambrose said we are likely to retreat back to our ethnic cocoons, and when you go to...
I'm curious to say, when you told him flag bearer, what did he say about Raila?
He said it is definite all Luos will vote for Raila Odinga and all Kikuyus will vote for Uhuru Kenyatta. So I told him if at all he will make it to the flag bearer of this particular formation. But what he says, that he said that Kenyans might just retreat back to their tribal cocoons, and when they're being told to vote, most of it will be because of tribal affiliations. Felix, are you seeing an event where we will just all retreat back to our tribal cocoons despite the issues that face this country, and are we likely to have issue-based elections this year?
Well, unfortunately, if you analyze the patterns of voting since 1992, they tend to be skewed towards ethnicity, ethnic mobilization, and regional mobilization, because our regions, our counties are skewed towards, take an ethnic pattern. But I really hope and wish, like everybody else, for a situation where we will vote on the basis of the issues. I think there are so many things that are happening now. There is runaway corruption, the potential for a very violent election in 2017, given what you said earlier, that the stakes are high. It's true, the stakes are high. In this continent of ours, every time an incumbent is seeking a re-election, the stakes are usually very, very high. The price of winning or losing is absolute. You win at whatever cost.
Yeah.
I want to believe that our politicians would let the sovereign or the sovereignty of people, of Kenyans, if they decide that we are going to vote in a particular way. I mean, we are a powerhouse in this region. The last thing that we would want to see is to go the Gambia way, for example. But stakes are not only high with respect to the presidential votes. Stakes are even higher with respect to the elections at the devolved government.
Yes.
Gubernatorial elections. So my brother here and a host of others actually have declared interest to contest for the governors. But not even the governors. The MCAs are even going to be more fiercely contested. My area MP drives a Prado. And everybody can relate with that. And they're saying that, yeah, the MCA. And they're saying that, oh my God, the person that we were seeing just the other day, now his fortune has actually changed. Multiplied. So I can bet you the fiercest contest would probably be at that local level. And yes, that will devolve the stakes and make the stakes even higher at that level. But I want to say that this voter registration process gives us an opportunity, if for nothing else, to take back the sovereign power. It is not by accident that Article 1 of the Constitution talks about vast sovereignty to the Kenyan people. And we went further in our Constitution, something that no other country has in the region, and that is to entrench political rights at Article 38. Now, if you look at the rights provided for in Article 1, sovereignty of the people, and every right provided for in Article 38, the right to participate in a free and fair election, the right to be a member of a political party, the right to vote, all these rights are actually firmly anchored on the right to vote, to register as a voter. That is the important first step. And that is why Kenyans should understand that you can only exercise that sovereign power if you register as a voter and participate in the elections.
Still talking about tribal mobilization. I know you're itching to say something, but you will answer it together with this question. The devolved governments, you are part of those aspiring to be leaders in the devolved governments. We have counties where people come from the same ethnic tribe. So will we be having same tribes? Will we be having different dynamics down at the county levels based on the ethnicity?
First and foremost, I asked the question, and we said it when we were doing the review. What I've never understood of a Kenyan You vote the guy who's imposed on you by your political party. You vote your tribe. You vote for every other consideration apart from competence or program. And your life does not improve.
And then you
and you
complain
still do
about
it again.
Yeah.
For me, even it's not about complaining about you do it again and again. And you know what Einstein said? The height of madness is to do the same thing the same way and expect different results. So I'm still trying to understand, what is this fear factor? What is this factor that drives us to go and vote on our ethnic grounds? And yet you have seen there has been not a single improvement of your life based on that form of voting for a million years that you have voted in that regard. So I think that is it. I have a small study. Studies are studies. They are opinions.
Yeah.
Their accuracy can be tested. It says that the true metropolises of Mombasa and Nairobi can sometimes focus on issue-based politics. Kidero had votes of people who voted for Uhuru Kenyatta because they believed Baba Yao, as much as Baba Yao cannot run the city. So there were those, what I call astute or sophisticated voters. On one side said, yes, Huyu is our boy, is our kijana yetu, voted for Uhuru Kenyatta. But at the governorship level, says, yes, this might be a guy from an ethnic group, but this guy cannot run this county. So therefore they voted for Evans Kidero. So I think there is in these two urban cities, the dynamics are very different. Yeah. If you look at Uhuru Kenyatta's vote in Mombasa in the last election, he got 64,000 votes. But his TNA candidate got 16,000 votes. So where did the 50,000 vote go? Because those who were voting for Uhuru Kenyatta also felt that this guy, who's their TNA candidate, cannot run the city of Mombasa. So I think there's those dynamics of, but only if you as the media also focus us on issues. Yeah, that's why I get a bit of anxiety in Mombasa. You're always focusing us on guns and bodyguards and whatever else. You know, we are losing the issues. Sympathy after sympathy attempts. Whereas if you start to have a conversation, like in Nairobi, you're having a conversation about your traffic, about the traffic here, about garbage collection, about the issues that affect the people of Nairobi, water, sanitation. You know, you have an actual conversation. I've had people raising frustrations or those who raise admiration on the basis of what they see happening on the ground. But we cannot have a continuous conversation about how you escalate animosity so that people view Raila as the enemy or view Uhuru Kenyatta as the enemy so that you get a free ride. So I think what else have you done differently from Uhuru Kenyatta? You're talking about good government. Is there good government where you're talking about? You're talking about accountable structures of leadership. You're talking about focusing priorities of the county or the national government. Are you focusing those priorities? You're talking about, you know, corruption. Are you fighting it? So let's focus on the conversation. And you have a very critical role as a media. I don't know. In fact, for me, the media impacts election in such fundamental ways that for you guys to focus on issues, for you guys to do focuses on counties and other areas of good government will be excellent. Well, because we are talking about corruption here. We're talking at the national level. We're talking about wastage. We're talking about ethnicity. We're talking about favoritism in government allocations or contracts. And yet they're happening. The same guy who's saying his code, he's doing the same thing, in fact, multiple times. And you don't think it's an issue at that level. So I think we need to start focusing a little more on the issues. And if you can drive an issue-driven media debate, yeah, so that when you call me, you are calling me not to respond to a gun issue, but you are calling me to respond to garbage issues. You are calling me not to respond to, what Jubilee has done. Yes, you are, but what also I have not done, or what I have done.
So what are we saying? Politicians have double standards. The same people who have been condemning the government about a number of things they've done, looking at it in a different way. Are they doing the same things down at the county level?
Senator Khalwale, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., and I have been the only three people who have talked about the corruption of our governance. And they ask us, why are you not bringing it to the Senate? They know they can come and sanitize it there. For me, I'm no longer bringing an issue to the Senate. I'm taking it to the ESCC. I want prosecutions. And then when you start an array of action, what they will do, they'll have their political parties give statements about them being victimized. They will start mobilizing ethnically, they will start mobilizing politically, so that you miss on the issues. And yet corruption is happening. You see it all the time. Mtu yetu anaumizwa, mtu yetu sijui ni nini, mtu yetu. So I think what we need to do is to have a very deeper conversation. And those of us who have audacity must stare these types of innuendos to the face. You know, some of us have the capacity to stare these innuendos to the face. You call me this, because I've raised the accountability issue, I've become a Jubilee Mall, so be it. I'll continue to raise it, because ultimately the point will be made.
All right, Hassan. Marcus, what do you think?
I think...
He's said a lot of things. Felix as well.
Yeah. I think one of the things that, from observer's point of view,
Yeah.
the role that political parties should play, and also what kind of institutions should we have in political parties. Because a number of these parties, including his party, is receiving money from the public, and they should be held accountable.
Yeah, that's true. The accounting officer.
Yes, exactly, and it's very bad. And I think our politics is largely ethnic based. No issues. It's not an issue-based
Issue-based,
politics.
yeah.
And even in these campaigns and these, as we proceed to these processes, you'll find that we should be using a lot more with ethnic than issues. And I think the gap, as from ILOG's point of view, is that we need serious civic education that explains to the public that this is what you expect of a political party.
Yeah.
That can you provide an alternative platform that engages me directly, tells me how best, like for example, I want to hear, right now the major crisis at national level is drought. If you think the government is failing to address the issue of drought, or the government is failing to address the issue of corruption, or the issue of medical strike, can the opposition parties, or the formation, as Felix called them, can they give us an alternative way of addressing the issue?
All right.
And not now say that you see Uhuru has failed, Uhuru has eaten the money of NASA, of NYS. What are the alternatives that you are giving the people? And also even Kenyans themselves should come out and say, this is what I hold your parties accountable, because you pay for them.
All right, before I go to Ambrose, Felix, I would not let you go before asking this. IEBC has constantly said that it is facing budgetary constraints, that it was hoping it would get this particular amount of money, but was given this particular amount of money as we head into the election. Are we on the right track with the systems put in place and all?
Well, unfortunately, not. And the debate over this allocation of IEBC, financial allocation of IEBC, is a bit complex, particularly so if you analyze the conduct of the past commission insofar as effective and prudent management of finances are concerned. And the country, unfortunately, has not debated this issue, because they look at IEBC and look at the conduct of past commissions and say they were wasting. And in fact, Kriegler said that there was a lot of wastage in terms of IEBC, management of financial affairs in the IEBC. But then this is where the debate becomes complex.
Yeah.
The Constitution at Article 88 and the IEBC Act gives the IEBC autonomy. And autonomy in this sense should be political, functional, and financial autonomy. And yet, whereas there is a semblance of enjoyment of political and operational autonomy on the part of the Electoral Commission, the IEBC does not enjoy financial autonomy. Every time they submit a budget, it must go through the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and the Parliament must vote on it. And so this actually deprives, and it has been argued, that deprives the IEBC of full autonomy and a full financial autonomy. Because if they depend on government and Parliament to give them a vote, then it goes without saying that they will be beholden to the body that gives them the money.
What? Are their hands tied?
Their hands are tied. Now, the situation compares differently with South Africa. And again, unfortunately for them, IEBC, the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa, is one of the entities that actually manages their finances very effectively, in such a way that what they ask the exchequer in South Africa, they get it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's end it with Ambrose Weda. Ambrose, what do you expect to see from political parties in the next 30 days of this exercise? Very briefly, we are just about to end.
I expect them to go around villages spreading propaganda,
Yes.
how people should take vote and be ready to vote out this government or retain this government. I really do not expect to see them rolling out carefully crafted strategies to ensure that those who are not registered are registered. You can see that I hear NASA has already planned a huge rally where they'll be spreading propaganda, and then by the time they leave, not a single person is registered. That's a whole day wasted, because in a rally you don't register. I really would appeal to our wing, the Jubilee wing, that let us have a strategy where every leader ensures that in a day you have 5 or 10 people registered. The rallies alone, or the rallies way, is just to waste the few 30 days that we have. So I expect more rallies. I'll see them in Western, in whatever, in Mombasa, people yelling and talking. But the registration exercise has to be done systematically by the IEBC. So until you see them working with the IEBC team, there will be very little. But I expect that the noise they make will work positively towards the registration.
Okay.
Yes.
Ambrose, thank you very much. Ambrose Weda, lawyer, joining us from our Mombasa Road studios. We have Marcus Agenga. He's a programs officer at ILOG. Mombasa County Senator Hassan Omar, and election lawyer Felix Odhiambo. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming in. Remember, for our KTN home viewers, coming up next is KTN Lifestyle. Be sure to catch that. Up next, we will be taking a look at news updates here on the KTN News. Don't go too far. This is KTN Morning Express.